How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Foul Shot. So you guys know yesterday the NBA released the official starters of the 2017 NBA All-Star Game. Now today's video, what we're going to be doing is breaking down the starters. I'm going to be giving my personal grades. Do I think it was the right pick for the starter or not? But before we do that, I want to talk about this system, this All-Star Game voting system. Now the NBA noticed this year a fundamental problem in the way that the All-Star Game decided the starters. So before, the fans had all the voice. And I understand from a business standpoint why you would do that. These are the people that are giving you the money. We're watching these games, and that gives you the opportunity to get these TV deals, to have the money to sign these big players. So you want the fans to feel like they matter, right? It's a great idea. Other sports do it too. But you just got to think about it. And the NBA actually did think about it this year. People just don't take things seriously. You think about it, Zaza Pachulia 2 years in a row almost made it to the All-Star Game. So the NBA decided to change the format. So instead of the fans having all the voice, the fans still had 50%. 25% went to the players' vote and 25% went to media. Now 50% for the fans still, in my opinion, is pretty high. Honestly, I would rather have the media and other NBA players decide who's in the All-Star Game before I let the fans decide. Again, as I mentioned, people don't take this too seriously. So because of this, because the fans have such big of a vote, there are a couple players in this All-Star Game starting lineup that I think don't deserve to be starters this year. But I do want to say, before we actually get into gradings, if this player doesn't have a good grade or something, I don't want you to think that I'm saying that he does not deserve to be an All-Star, because without a doubt, every guy that's voted into the All-Star Game, or at least starters, deserve to be there. I'm just saying maybe they should be a reserve and somebody else deserves to be a starter. So let's get into the grades. So we're going to start off with the Eastern Conference, the point guard position being Kyrie Irving. I gave this a B. Now this is his 4th All-Star game. This year he's averaging 23.6 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, and 5.6 assists. Now the reason I'm giving this a B and not an A- or A+ is because I think there are other guards in the Eastern Conference that deserve this a little more than Kyrie Irving. Of course, Kyrie Irving is having such a great year. I just read you guys his stats. He's having a great season, but a guy I would start over him is Isaiah Thomas. But again, as I mentioned a couple seconds ago, just because I think Isaiah Thomas should start over him, I'm not saying that Kyrie Irving doesn't deserve to be an All-Star starter. This is one of those picks that it's just like it doesn't really matter, because Kyrie Irving has that All-Star player game. He's hard to guard. He's incredible with the handles. He's a flashy player. That's exactly what you want in the All-Star game. You want the fans to enjoy the game. And Kyrie Irving is one of those guys that can definitely have you enjoying the game. Think about it when he crossed up Brandon Knight in like the Rookie Showcase game. And I don't even remember what it's called these days. But when he crossed up Brandon Knight, he has that factor to have the fans saying ooh and ah. So that's why I gave this a B and not something lower, because even though I do think Isaiah Thomas should be starting over him, or maybe even Kyle Lowry, I still did think he deserves to be there. Now, DeMar DeRozan is the other guard spot, and I also gave this a B. This is his 3rd All-Star game. He's averaging 28.2 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, and 3.9 assists. Now, honestly, I may bump that up to a B+, honestly, because out of all of the guards, he's one that I definitely think deserves to be there. Now, for the guards that were fighting us out, again, it was Kyrie Irving, Kyle Lowry, Isaiah Thomas, Kemba Walker, and John Wall. Those are the guards, in my mind, I thought had a chance to have this starting guard spot. But DeMar DeRozan has been tearing it up offensively this year. Defensively, maybe not so much, but you think about it, the All-Star game has never been about defense, and that can be said about Kyrie Irving too. But his high-flying aspects, the way he scores the ball, again, will be nice and fun for the fans. But again, similar to Kyrie Irving, I think maybe some other guys could have stepped into that starting spot. But again, DeMar DeRozan definitely deserves to be an All-Star. Now we're getting to the forward spots. Let's start with Jimmy Butler. This is his 3rd straight All-Star game. This year he's averaging 24.8 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, 4.8 assists per game, and about 2 steals. Jimmy, I honestly, as a Bulls fan, I thought Jimmy had reached his peak last season. And that would have been a good peak. The guy was amazing last year. I think he averaged about 20 points per game. But he jumped it up again. And honestly, I want to say this is his peak, but who knows? The way this guy practices in the offseason, the way he's got better every year over the course of his season, you can't really say this is his peak, because there's no way to know. Who knows? Next year he could be considered for MVP maybe if the Bulls weren't so bad. But right now the Bulls sit I think at a 500 record, and it hasn't been fun to watch as a Bulls fan. I'll be completely honest with you. This team is not that fun to watch. But the one saving grace for this Bulls team, and the reason I still watch many games, is because Jimmy Butler. He is a blast to watch. There's not many players that have that it factor, and Jimmy has that it factor. You remember when Derrick Rose was a part of the Chicago Bulls and the front office was trying to decide whose team is this, or maybe the locker room was this Derrick Rose's team or Jimmy Butler's team? And honestly, I think that they had to make that split decision. That's the reason they traded Derrick Rose. It was between Derrick or Jimmy. Who do we keep? Who do we get rid of? And I'm so happy we kept Jimmy Butler. I mean, there's still some rumors that he's going to be traded this before the All-Star game or even All-Star weekend, but we'll talk about that once the time comes. This guy has just been amazing this season. I got this stat from Bleacher Report. It says that Butler is averaging 41.8 points per game, 8.1 rebounds per game, and 4 assists per 36 minutes while shooting 42% from the field and 97.6% at the free throw line. And I'm pretty sure those are all clutch numbers, so we're talking about in the final 5 minutes of the game, but those numbers are incredible. Now, I can sit here and talk about Jimmy Butler for a long time because out of all these players, he's the person I've seen most this season, but we're going to move on and say Jimmy Butler, A+. So the next guy is LeBron James, of course, another A+, his 13th All-Star game, averaging 25.6 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and 8.1 assists per game. Without a doubt. I don't even think we have to spend much time on it. LeBron deserves to be here, just like any other season. This guy has just been amazing for his team. Of course, they're still leading the Eastern Conference. Him alongside Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love leading the way. Think about this. With LeBron James on the court, his team net rating is 8.1. When he's not on the court, his team rating is negative 7.6. That lets you know how important this dude is. Now, we talk about MVP race. LeBron James is always going to be in the mix. I just read you those numbers. That's how much he impacts his team. Without him, that team is pretty much nothing. So LeBron James definitely another A+ candidate. So Giannis, the Greek freak Antetokounmpo. His first All-Star game, he's averaging 23.7 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game, 5.6 assists per game, 1.8 steals, 2.1 blocks, and he's shooting 53.8% from the field. Now, I just read you his entire stat line because those are numbers we haven't seen before. I'll give you his grade. A+. Plus. Like, if I could give more than 1+, I would, because this guy has been taking the league by storm. I honestly wrote out the Milwaukee Bucks once I saw that Chris Middleton had went down, because he's played such a big part of that team. Honestly, he was their first scoring option last season. But Giannis has kept this team afloat right now. They are tied with the Bulls for the 8th seed. So even though they're on a 3-game losing streak as I'm recording this video, he has been keeping this team afloat. And he's just incredible to watch. He's a freak of, I mean, think about his nickname. He's a freak of nature. Not a player has been this big and had these type of handles, had this type of finishing ability. Only thing he needs is that jump shot, and who's going to stop him? Who's really going to stop the guy if he incorporates a jump shot to his game? So Giannis definitely deserves his first All-Star game being a starter. It's crazy. A++++. So now we're going to get into the Western Conference. Now let's start with the first guard being Stephen Curry. I gave this one a B. Now, again, Stephen Curry without a doubt deserves to be an All-Star. I have to say that whenever I give something lower than an A, Stephen Curry definitely deserves to be an All-Star. If he didn't deserve to be an All-Star, he wouldn't get a B, he'd get an F. So this is his 4th All-Star game. He's averaging 24.6 points per game, 4.2 rebounds per game, 6.1 assists, leading the team with the best record in the league, right? So people are angry. All over Twitter, I see, how is Stephen Curry starting over Russell Westbrook? That's all I see. I've seen people tweet at the NBA itself, just at NBA. How is Steph starting over Russell Westbrook? I've seen people tweet at other players because we know the other players had votes too. And I've seen people tweet at media. But who players should, or who fans should be tweeting at are themselves. Again, I'll break down the way things were this season. 50% went to the fans. 50% of the fans voted. 25% to media and 25% to players. Now, Stephen Curry finished 1st in fan votes, 3rd in player votes, and 3rd in media votes. Russell Westbrook finished 3rd in fan votes and 1st in media and 1st in players. So the media and the players definitely knew that Russell Westbrook deserves to be an all-star starter because, I mean, the dude's averaging a triple-double, right? But he did not have enough fan votes to overtake Stephen Curry. So if there's anybody to blame for this, if you want to blame anybody, it has to be the fans. The fans were the reason this, and that goes back to what I started in the beginning of the video saying that the fans have too much power. Even though, again, Stephen Curry definitely deserves to be an all-star, I believe that, I'm sure we can all agree, you have to be delirious if you don't agree that Russell Westbrook deserves to be a starter. But Steph Curry got the nod considering that he was #1 in fan voting. Second on the list is James Harden, A+. His 5th All-Star game appearance, he's averaging about 29 points per game, 8.3 rebounds, and 11.6 assists. Who knew that James Harden had this in his game? I mean, I kind of knew, but it was a match made in heaven. When Mike D'Antoni came over to take over this team offensively, I tweeted back, I think it was early September, my MVP pick was James Harden. I knew that this was a match made in heaven. The way D'Antoni runs his offense, James Harden was the perfect player for us. We thought that Steve Nash was the perfect player for the D'Antoni offense. Well, there's somebody that overtook him. Now, there's always going to be a debate, or at least for this entire season, who deserves MVP, Russell Westbrook or James Harden, but this is not what this video is about. We're talking about how he deserves to be an all-star. And without a doubt, I think a lot of people wrote off the Houston Rockets. If you look at a lot of the experts, when they predicted how the season was going to go, a lot of them had the Rockets either like low 7 seed or maybe even out of the playoffs. But James Harden has such a big impact on this team. He's making everybody around him better. Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson, who knew that those guys were so good? I mean, you play alongside a guy like James Harden who can get you open shots. They're 3rd in the Eastern Conference with a 33-12 record. So James Harden, without a doubt, A+++. Now we're getting to the forward spot. The first will be Anthony Davis, his 4th All-Star appearance in 5 years, averaging 28 points per game, I guess we could say closer to 29 points per game, and 12 rebounds. I'm going to give this one an A+, because I looked at the list of people who could have started over him, and honestly don't think there's anybody there. Of course, you can argue DeMarcus Cousins, but I think we can all agree that Anthony Davis is still pretty good. Now, right now, his team is a half a game, I'm sorry, 1 full game out of the playoffs, even though they only have 17 wins and 26 losses. He has been the only saving grace, just like I said with Jimmy Butler with the Bulls. He's been the only saving grace for this team all season. He has been putting his heart out there, man. To start the season, the guy was leading the league in scoring because there's really wasn't many people on his team that can get their own shots off. And I mean, that's still kind of the case. He definitely deserves to be there. And a lot of people say he's really injured, but this season he's played 40 out of his team's 43 games. So he's been pretty durable along this season. So hopefully that can continue, and hopefully the fans of New Orleans, because this All-Star game is in New Orleans, will show so much love to every single free agent or All-Star that's going to be a free agent this season. Show Chris Paul that love that he deserves for keeping his team afloat after Hurricane Katrina, and maybe, just maybe, he'll sign back. I mean, I don't think so, but they should be roaring for everybody that's an upcoming free agent, because Anthony Davis needs some help, and he needs it ASAP. Anthony Davis is not going anywhere. He's going to be in New Orleans for the next 3-4 years, but he needs some help, and he needs a star next to him, and they should be cheering Chris Paul or Steph Curry. I know he's not going anywhere, but just pretty much every upcoming free agent, they should be cheering their heads off to make those dudes feel loved and make them love the city of New Orleans. Next guy on the list is Kawhi Leonard. I also gave this an A+, his 2nd All-Star game appearance. He's averaging about 25 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. The silent assassin is what I'm going to call him, because the dude doesn't make a noise. He doesn't talk at all. It's hard for me to watch many San Antonio Spurs games. One, if they're not nationally televised, there's no way for me to get it because I don't have League Pass anymore. But if you look at his stats, I always watch his highlights at the end of every day or every game, and the dude is doing it on both sides of the court. A lot of these players that I've named in this All-Star game, a lot of them aren't incredible defensive players. Well, we're talking about the 2-time Defensive Player of the Year right here. He's doing it on the defensive side, and he's also doing it on the offensive side. And not many players can do that, and he's one of those players, so that's one of the reasons I gave it an A+. So the last guy is Kevin Durant. The guy who packed up his bags in Oklahoma City and flew out to Oakland to be a part of one of the best teams in NBA history, or the best regular season team in NBA history. He's averaging 26.2 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, and 4.7 assists. His 8th All-Star appearance. Without a doubt, I'm giving this A+. Who knew that a guy, well, I mean, I guess some of us knew that you can leave a team averaging, I think he averaged 27 points per game last season alongside Russell Westbrook, go to a team with 3 more All-Stars and still put up the same numbers. And really, he's been controlling this team. He's leading the team in scoring. He's been controlling this team. He's the alpha dog, at least on the court out there. And without a doubt, it deserves an A+. Now, I know I gave a lot of A+s out, but the reason I gave out A+s to a lot of people, because I look at the list of players below them who had this amount of votes, and if I gave it an A+, I could not think of a better person to start. So even though I said that the fans shouldn't have that much power, we did an alright job here. We definitely did an alright job. So in the comment section below, let me know what you think about these All-Stars. Do you think I gave out the right grades? What would you grade everybody in this All-Star game start? And I'm hoping that we release the reserves soon. I don't really know the schedule for everything, but I'm hoping we get some ideas about the reserves very, very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit your free throws and subscribe to The Foul Shot.